Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Hello, folks. This is Game Over Montreal coming to you from not the Bell Center, which I am really glad about because if I paid real money to see that game, I would be very, very upset right now. Um, that was a game. Today I have my guest Millie from Offside News. How are we feeling about that game? And you can
Not good.
introduce yourself also while we're here.
Oh, yes. While we're here, hi, I'm Millie. I write for Offside News Co. Mostly covering PWHL Vancouver, but that's just because I'm in Vancouver. I am by blood a Habs fan, and so I will take any opportunity to hop on and chat Habs, especially with our lovely host Kay. So I'm excited to talk about this, excited to chit chat and break down this game, even though it is wasn't a great game.
Yeah.
That's how I'm feeling. Not good.
Yeah, that it was a game. So first of all, I want to thank everybody who's watching us, who's here in the chat. Lots of our regulars, lots of some new faces that I'm seeing. So thank you so much, everybody. We really appreciate having you here. I know it's not always fun to talk about a loss, so but here we are, right? Like it is my actual job, and I know Millie and I will have lots of fun. So it's all good. It's all cool. Um, yeah, I just want to say thank you for everybody in the chat. And if you haven't liked this video yet, please do that. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do that. I'm just going to break down a little bit how we want today to go. There's a lot of flexibility because I don't know about you, Millie, but I'm pretty frustrated after that game. So my brain is not working at its most organized. So first period, we want to talk a little bit just about the game itself. Not the best, so I think we won't spend a lot of time on that game. Second period, we'll have the goalie discussion. That's all I'm gonna say. It's the goalie discussion. Uh, and then we also want to talk a little bit about Yuri Slafkovsky and Ivan Demidov and Demidov. Ivan Demidov and a little bit about that first line, the times we saw what Marty did with the line change a little bit, having Demidov on that line. And then we want to get into the third period and we want to talk a little bit about Arber and Jayden Struble and the looming specter of Caden Gooley and what it seems to have done for both of those players. And then I'm sure we'll end up talking about something else, right? And then third period, we're going to take your questions, or sorry, in the overtime, we'll take your questions. If you have any questions, you can drop them in the chat, but also with the disclaimer that I might not see them later because it's hard to scroll back in these chats. So you can always ask them later and you can always ask them now. And we will, of course, as per always, be looking to the chat as we talk also. So I'm just going to take a little quick look and see if there's anything we need to address right away. Did you see anything in the chat, Melly, that we gotta get to right now before we talk about the game itself?
Not any pressing questions right off the bat. I think program sounds good. We'll get to the questions when we get to them.
Yep,
And no better way to start than by unpacking the game with the first period.
absolutely, absolutely. Sorry. Whoa, okay. So, starting this game, I thought they looked so good. I was so happy with them. I know people were like, "Oh, there's so many turnovers, there's this, there's that." But I was like, the reason why there's so many turnovers is because they're playing with speed. And I thought the start of this game was the Habs playing the way they wanted to, which was high event, positive or negative, and lots of speed. How were we feeling going into the start of this game?
Um, I like your optimistic outlook. Honestly, I wasn't too feeling too hot right off the bat. I think that like right from the beginning they were kind of getting hemmed in their own zone, and that was the first thing that I was noticing.
Mhm.
I think that you're absolutely right though. Like high event, high speed. Certainly, we're starting to get shots right at the beginning, which has
New.
historically been an issue for the Habs, so that was optimistic in some ways. But I think that I was noticing right from the beginning just some issues leaving the defensive zone that persisted throughout the rest of the game. I was hoping, oh, it's just the start of the game; they'll snap out of it, and then
Mhm.
unfortunately, it did seem to like linger for the rest of the game. Um, I was excited by like the high events. There were just definitely some like close calls, shots that just went wide,
Mhm.
shots that were, blocked that could have been really cool attempts. So I mean, it was sort of experiencing the epic highs and lows,
Mhm.
the triumphs and defeats of first period Habs hockey was how I felt at the beginning.
That's so funny because like, we completely saw it differently, I think. But I think what's happened here is we were seeing the same things. I just saw it from I'm not expecting exciting hockey when I watch the Kings, right? Uh, and
Mhm.
so I was just excited that things were happening, I think is what happened. Not very common for the Kings. Um, but you're right, there was definitely some defensive stuff that carried over, I would say. But by the end of the period, it's no, first, let me just ask you, was there anything you noticed kind of in the first period? I'll be honest with you, I don't really have many notes from that period. Anything that you really, saw or want to talk about some specific something?
I mean, for the first period, I definitely want to talk about our lone goal of the game, just
Well, yeah, we'll
because.
get to the good stuff. We'll get to there.
Yeah. Um, no, I mean, there's only two main things that I took extensive notes about, that being the 5-on-3 and,
Mhm,
excuse me, the our lone goal.
mhm.
Um, I think
Oh yeah, that's when the
otherwise,
5-on-3 happened. Okay, yeah. 5 on
yes.
3. 5 on 3. How did we feel about that sequence?
Um, I thought it was interesting because it definitely felt like there was a lot of movement. There was a
Mhm.
lot of like the power play has been pretty good, might I say, fifth in the league
Dare I
prior
say?
to today. Dare I get my hopes up and say that our power play has been good. Um, but I I had mixed feelings about it. I mean, I was pretty optimistic. I saw a lot of movement. I saw a lot of like shot attempts and shot setups. Obviously, it didn't translate actually to that many shots. They showed
Mhm.
this little statistic, this little graphic on the LDS like score bug afterwards that was saying, "Oh, we had one shot in 3 power plays." And I said,
That's
"Well,
really cool.
that's not how it felt to me.
That's
It
not how
honestly
it
didn't feel that bad." Like I
yeah.
felt like we were getting a lot of shot attempts, whether that translated to actual shots on the power play, less so. So I felt pretty okay, even though it was kind of disappointing to come out of 5-on-3 with no goals. I mean, it always is. I
Mhm.
didn't feel that bad coming out of it actually. It was sort of later on that I started to feel bogged down by like what was happening on the power play because I was like, oh, okay, now we're on to our third, now we're on to our fourth, and we're not
Yeah.
generating chances.
Yeah, at the first, and that's the first and the second. The 5-on-3 counts as the first and the second, which I'd like people to note because it seems like when people are talking about those power plays, there's a little bit of there's an overlap there, is what I'm trying to say. Because to me, those are the same power play. Not really, but kind of. Like it's the sequence is the same because it's a 5-on-3 is completely different. That 5-on-4 beginning second half, right? Like it just adds up to me. So how did you and I can't remember if I was just misremembering, but I remember seeing Dobson out there with Caulfield, Suzuki, and Hudson. Was I
Oh
seeing
yeah.
things or what is that what
No, you were not
happened?
seeing things.
Because I was just a little confused because I was seeing Cole Caulfield at the front of the net trying to fight trying to fight the Kings' big ass defenders. They have big players. I didn't realize how big. Um, and Slafkovsky wasn't there. So what do we think Marty was trying there? How did we like it? I thought that with the 5-on-3, maybe it was good, but I don't remember if on the power play, just the plain power play, if it was still Slav wasn't there.
Um, I mean, I thought it worked for the 5-on-3. I didn't see that many issues with it. For the actual power play itself, I'm with you on that. I don't 100% remember. Like, I think for the what you might be talking about for like the latter half of the second power play, it was like our second power play unit. I didn't see.
I
I
think
think Slav was there for the beginning of the first power play, like when
yeah,
it was
I
still
think
five
it was
on
just a
four,
5-on-3. I
five
think the
on
five on
three.
three is where Dobson was out there, if I recall correctly. But okay,
Yeah, no,
just
it was for the
however,
5-on-3.
yeah, whatever happened there, whenever it was, my apologies. I should know that, but I don't. Because the Kings bored the hell out of me and made me forget literally everything I ever knew in my life. But how did we feel about that? Dobson out there with the big boys for the 5-on-3.
I didn't hate it, but also I was confused.
I think
Um,
that's exactly the summary that I would go with.
I didn't hate it in that it didn't look bad to me at all. I thought that, they were both Hudson and Dobson were both doing their jobs effectively, which is, moving the puck around, setting up plays. At the same time, if you have a 5-on-3, why do you need both? I mean, with a power play, you already don't need both. That's the point of having one quarterback. I didn't see it as necessary for a 5-on-3 either,
Hmm.
considering that it would be your opportunity essentially to have four guys who can score, and you only need one defender because there's only three opposing players on the ice. Like, to
Hmm.
me, it just doesn't add up to what my perception of what a 5-on-3 should look like.
I
But I
agree.
mean, also, I was like, let's see if Marty can cook, and then it didn't.
And then
So I
Marty
I
didn't.
feel
Yeah.
confused.
Yeah, I was
I feel
confused. I just
confused.
didn't understand what that decision was, why it happened. Uh, I guess there was just a little bit more leeway because it's a 5-on-3. I think maybe their first or their second of the season, something like that. I get it. They're both, um, Hudson and Dobson are both, like you said, did their jobs very well, but I don't know if there was a need for two people to be doing that job, right? Like I think
Exactly.
what was missing on that power play was what Slav can bring on a power play, right? So like that was just what I was a little bit on. But listen, I don't think it looked that bad. I was happy with the passes. I know that they didn't shoot as much as they should have. But I think I'm really grading on a curve when it comes to Habs power play. You know what I mean? Like I'm just like, oh,
Yeah.
they're shooting and they're connecting and it looks good and they're passing and they're not standing still. Oh my God, what a
No,
power
I mean,
play.
that's me. That's me because I saw in chat earlier that said, like, on 5-on-3 we were like, people were begging for shots to be fired. Just Montreal MUFC saying this in chat. Fair enough. Objectively, we should all be hoping for shots on net. I fear that I am accustomed to a power play that does absolutely, like, zip zero
Nothing.
zilch.
Yeah.
And so when there was puck movement, I got excited like a little toddler with the keys being jangled in front. I was being distracted by the shiny puck movement,
Yeah.
and not by the fact that there was a singular shot on net.
Yeah, I think that's what happened there. I was very scared when I'm K28 and I'm scared. But I was very scared when I saw that 5-on-3 because I was like, oh, they're getting like literally zero calls after this. The refs are doing nothing for them. And sure enough, Kirby Doc got two calls that were not real calls. One of them was just atrocious because even from the ref's perspective, you should be able to see that there wasn't a trip. Second
No,
one,
that wasn't a trip.
second one
Sorry.
with the high sticking. That one I guess I can kind of tell, like, forgive the ref on in that moment because it did look bad. A puck did hit Byfield in the face, and it did hurt. So I guess I see that. But then they had that whole like little gossip circle that they do when they try to figure it out. And nobody saw that it wasn't the stick, it was a puck. I just think that like there's something that's happened with Kirby Dog that just is he big and that's why their refs see him and go penalty? Like what's happening here? That was just insane. It was bad shit. I felt like I was losing my mind.
No, that was ridiculous. I mean, I don't really have an explanation for the whole Kirby Doc thing. Why Kirby Doc, especially either? Could it just be that now that he's, I mean, playing closer to form pre-injury and he's actually getting physical again, they think that he's being aggressive because
They're
their
not
frame of
used to it,
reference is
yeah.
just they're not used to a Kirby Doc who's healthy and playing like playing against the boards and things like that. That would be my only running hypothesis. But yeah, but honestly, I thought both calls were a joke.
Yeah. It,
That's my take. And it feels bad because I don't want to come on here and like constantly complain about officiating. It makes me seem whiny and it makes me seem, petulant. But
but
I
I
do
am
think that both
whiny and
calls were
petulant.
ridiculous.
So what about it?
You know
I
what?
am whiny and
I'm whiny
petulant.
and petulant, but I'm right. So
exactly. And, like, obviously, I don't think this game came down to the refereeing at
no,
all, but I do fear that this is becoming a pattern with the Habs where I just don't think they're getting the benefit of the doubt with calls, and it's a little bit the conspiratorial part of me thinks back to those comments that the Habs made and weren't even fined for because it was so clearly badly done by the refs, like, after the Oilers game. I remember you telling me that you were so upset after that game. So, I thought maybe it's that. A little bit, I think younger teams just don't get calls because everybody is insane in the NHL, and so many things are reputation based, and younger teams just don't seem to get that. But then that doesn't make sense because Josh Anderson is a veteran, and it seems like he cannot buy leeway with the refs. It just seems like the refs are like,
no.
"Stupid Josh Anderson, I hate you," and then they just treat him like that. I did, by the way, it was just not worth noting, I guess, but I did notice some last game we saw Josh Anderson stop playing when he thought he should get a penalty, which is not excusable, even if you think that you deserved a call there and you don't get it. It's not you can't stop playing, right? And they directly caused a goal against. But today, I did notice him not doing that again, even if it feels like this is, like, such low-hanging fruit to have to, like, just talk about, but I was thrilled about that. I was happy about that is what I'll say.
Well, look, when there's a 5-1 game, you have to take any small wins you can get. And just I think maybe the Josh Anderson of it all is that he's the evil and menacing horse. Um, sorry, I'm terminally online, but yes, he is the
Josh
evil
Anderson,
and
power
menacing
horse,
horse.
yes, yes, correct.
Yes, exactly. No, but I honestly would not be able to explain the phenomenon when it comes to just like refs and the Habs and that. And I tend to not get conspiracy brained about it. I will just watch each game where it happens and go, man, this
Man.
sucks.
Aw. Aw, shucks.
Aw,
But
yeah.
speaking of good
Um,
things, if we do wanna talk about good things, how about that goal? I've never seen Josh Anderson shoot like that. What happened?
it was crazy. I was Exactly. He was my beautiful and evil menacing horse who can apparently shoot top right corner. And I love that for him. I was very excited. I have a note that I was like, I said I was going to diss their zone entries, which kind of hard to do also when you're playing the Kings and it's like their trap system. But I said was going to diss their zone entries, but as soon as I started writing it down in my notebook, there they go with Lane Hudson and Jake Evans setting Josh Anderson up for that beauty of a goal. I was so happy. I was ecstatic.
It was so good. I think especially, like, just seeing Josh Anderson get his first goal, I'm hoping that the dad powers will kick in eventually. They might not because he's literally playing next to who's also another dad, which at one point, I think the dad powers over the sleep deprivation, which is gonna win, right? But I did think our fourth line was very good today. I really liked the play. I think you see, Jake Evans just going to the net and shooting the puck in, like, making sure it was in is just so funny, and it is so Jake Evans of him, and it was just a moment where I was like, "This is why this player is so easy to love." I know people have been criticizing him this so far. I think his play has been fine to good, even some games too good to fine. I think having Joe Veleno on the wing hasn't been helpful. Um, I I think I think we got used to UL Armia, Jake Evans, so I think we need to adjust expectations a little bit there. But I thought he was great today. I loved what he did. I loved just seeing him make sure that that goal was a goal. It's just I love Jake Evans, I think is what I'm saying.
And I support you on that. I have always known you as Jake Evans' biggest shooter. And you know what? I was excited that he had a good game today. Like I have him written down in my notebook for positive reasons.
Mhm.
And so um I've I'm happy that I get to talk about him positively with you right now because he's had a good game.
Yeah, yeah. I thought it was, you know I think Josh Anderson and Jake Evans were perhaps their best players this game, which isn't a good thing, but it does mean we've been begging for a good fourth line game and we got it. So little wins, I guess. Like what we can get, I suppose? Question
Yeah,
mark.
yeah. Take what we can. We're
Yeah.
trying our best here.
Yeah. So I was really excited at that goal because I was like, okay, it's the end of the period. It's great that they got that. Let's hope that carries over. Let's hope that the Kings are a little rattled because that literal last minute goal can rattle a team. But the Kings are a team full of guys who've been there, done that. And I think they were just able to calm themselves down. And the second period Habs made a reappearance and it wasn't good. It was ugly. It was not fun. Edmondson was not the former Hab on the Kings that I was expecting to score, but hey, he did that. Um, Shot from the point. Monty let that in, but also Veleno is screening him, so that's worth noting. Um, then that
I mean, it
second,
was more than just a screen, wasn't it? It was a deflection, was it not? Like, didn't
I
it go off his?
perhaps that could have
From what I saw of the replays, it did change directions
that would make
when
sense.
Valena was attempting to block it. So I was willing to give Monty a little bit more credence on that, just
Fair enough.
because I thought it was blocked. But yeah, sorry to interrupt.
No, absolutely. If I'm getting my facts wrong, I appreciate you correcting me. That was just something that I was like, okay, well, I think it's one of those moments where the mind jumps to, oh, Monty let in an unscreened shot from the point, like that's just, oh, what else is new? But I think if it's a deflection, it's a lot more doable, a lot more, excusable, I guess. Um, was it the second or the third goal that what happened with Monty happened? I don't remember.
It was the third. It was the third.
Yeah, the second goal happened, and then the third goal happened. And it just immediately felt like, we've seen the second period Habs like do their thing, by which I mean ruin my life. Um, and then bring me back to life in the third period, but like we've seen them do their thing. Um, But it's not usually in that, like, close succession where it's, like, 5 minutes of terrible hockey where they get scored on 3 times. Um, I wish man, I hate having a goalie conversation, but, save me, let's have that let's have a what do you think? How about that?
Okay, we will save the goalie discussion for our second period of our live stream.
Yes.
What I will say is that there's been a talk recently about sort of the Habs' response as a quote unquote immature team and improving their maturity with how they handle penalties, with how they handle calls. Honestly, 3 goals like that in such quick succession. The first one coming after such a long delayed penalty call where they were fighting for their
That was
lives.
yes,
I
correct.
think
That's what yeah, I
like
remember that now.
I think at that point, the first one we all saw the writing on the wall when they were like stuck in there and they were just genuinely not able to clear the zone, not able to get the penalty call any sooner. I figured it would end in a goal, and then I think to have the 2 others after that in such quick succession, there's a lot of talk about maturity. I don't blame them for falling apart after that. Is it disappointing? Yes. Would I have liked to see a sort of reset and comeback attempt at all in the third? Absolutely. Will I say that like I don't entirely blame them for kind of showing poor form after what has to be the most demoralizing 4 minutes of hockey that they've played in a good while. I,
Yeah.
I don't blame them for that entirely.
I think I think 2 things can be true. I think a team can need to play better in front of their goalie, and a goalie needs to make a save. And I think
Oh yeah.
that third goal was a goal where a goalie could have made a save. One of those goals, either the I don't even want to talk about the first 2 because I don't think anything special is worth talking about. Let's talk about the third one specifically. I just think, sure, could the Habs have had actual shots on goal? Sure. Absolutely. Did Monty need to save that third one? Absolutely. You cannot have your goalie give that up. And I think something we need
Yeah.
to like talk about is the mental side of that. What happens to you as a team when you go from up from 1-0 to all of a sudden you're down by 2 goals? And that third one was one that felt real bad. It makes
Yeah.
sense that it shook them, right? It makes sense.
Yeah, that's what I'm
I
saying.
saw it happen with the Avs so many times when Georgiev was doing his thing, and doing his thing. But when I saw it,
4GF, you mean?
yes, yes, exactly. And I saw it happen with like a mature, skilled, talented team of the Avs. I don't. I think a goalie's mistakes, unfortunately, fairly or unfairly, can trickle down in a way that another players won't. I think that's what you're kind of saying too, if I understand correctly.
Yes, yes. I think it's for this one that felt hard for me. This one didn't feel like it was a rebound that he couldn't control or things like that. This to me felt like a very very costly decision making error to
Mhm.
leave the puck out to the side and attempt to like I got to pass it to someone when there was a Kings play when Fiala was right there.
Yeah.
And so I think that'll rattle you as well because it's not just it's not a shot that Monty couldn't save. It was a decision that he made that
Mhm.
backfired spectacularly. And I think that also contributes to what you're saying about the just feeling rattled. It's the nature of the position of the goaltender where there's one on the ice and they're arguably the most important player, actually, inarguably.
I would
At
agree with
like
that.
when it comes down to it, the last line of defense is the goaltender. And so that is going to have an effect, especially when you're the only one on the ice who may or may not, like fairly or unfairly, will get the blame when a goal goes in.
Yeah.
Um, so I definitely agree with what you're saying about like needing to make that crucial save. And sometimes there's just a save that needs to be made.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's I hate to echo it, but sometimes you're paid to make the save that you're not supposed to, right? I think people are a little bit harsh on Monty for many reasons. And some are very, very unfair on a level that I think is not cool. Um, but I do think that sometimes as a goalie, you gotta make a save, right? Like you gotta make a save. But like you said, I think that one felt really bad because he caused that goal by like sometimes it's like a goalie isn't making it doesn't make a save, therefore it causes a goal. That one felt like there was a little bit of more active participation on his part, and then not saving a goal that felt really bad. Like there were two decisions made there. Passing the puck to a Kings player, then not saving it.
Yeah.
It was hard to swallow because it just felt like a brain fart. And like you said, fortunately
Yeah.
or unfortunately, it's the last line of defense, right? Like if your goalie just I feel like I'm talking in circles, but you know what I mean. Like I hope that makes
We
a lot of
kind of
sense.
are, but that's okay. This is our time to talk in circles. This is our mandatory talk in circles time. It's what you do after a loss anyway. But no, I agree. I mean, the thing is, I think I'm a little bit less upset than you are with the whole not making a save. I think that had the puck been in that position on the Kings player stick and it not been Monty's fault, I think that would have been an impossible save to make.
Hmm.
I'm more so mad about the brain fart of it all. Like you can't afford to do that, especially at a time where there is a lot of pressure on you for having been making these brain farts and your number one position is at risk. That's just not the kind of mistake you can afford to make. A bad save, it happens, but like the things you can control, making smart plays, setting yourself up so that you're not passing a player to the opponent, that's what I take issue with.
Fair enough. I think that's excuse me. I think that's more than fair. I think for me it's just kind of I'm like, well, you made one mistake, so you got to make it up on the other way, right? Like which is not how things work. He like you said, if that pass happens or if that pass doesn't happen from Monty and the player just shoots from there, Kevin Fiala is a very good player, right? Like he is a very good hockey player. So whatever, right? Now the rest of the game to me, frankly, is a blur. I thought the second half was it just felt like the Kings it felt like there were moments where the Habs were doing what they needed to, but it never lasted long enough. You know, how did you kind of the second half of the second period, I was like, let's just get out of here, right? Like we just need to get the
Yeah.
fuck out of here. We need to fix third period Habs can come back. And then the third period Habs weren't necessarily bad to start with, at least. And then it just all melted in such
Yeah.
a demoralizing way. I felt like if they had kept that game 1-3, they could come back. As soon as it was 1-4, I was like, "Oh, it's over.
Yeah.
This is the game." How did you kind of feel about
Yeah.
what you saw out of that third period? Yeah. I was about to call it the fourth
No, I
period
mean,
because I'm so used to the Habs taking us to OT that I was like, "Oh, the fourth period." No, it's the third period.
no, we got our ass whooped in the third period in regulation this time. Ugh. Look, I don't I honestly don't have that many thoughts on the third period. My issue was, um, sure, the Kings play a defensive system that prevents sort of entries into their zone, and that's sort of their whole thing. But
Mhm,
once you get in their zone, I found that it was a bit disappointing that they were unable to keep up with any sort of sustained pressure.
mhm.
I know that the Kings are a more defensive team, but a lot of that has to do with their style of play in the neutral zone. And so I figured, like, when you're in the offensive zone, once you have this set up, you're sort of making silly mistakes that are making it really difficult to sustain any pressure or sustain any momentum. Like you were saying, like they were showing flashes of what they needed to do to get back in the game, but they weren't holding it long enough for it to make any real impact. And that was what was frustrating to me.
Yeah, I think that's it, is, like, it felt like they could have really made the Kings pay for sitting back and trying to defend. However, the Kings are very good at doing that, which sucks because it's boring hockey. It's not fun, but that's just kind of their thing. And I think once
Yeah.
you've let the Kings get up enough that they just need to once you've allowed the Kings in a position where they can comfortably just do that, sit back, defend, at that point, you are responsible for what you've done to yourself. You know, that was like it was just waiting for that to end. I think the third period really felt like I'm waiting for this to end.
Yeah. Um, So, not to go back to the whole goalie thing, because I swear I've mostly moved on, but when we're talking about the Kings getting comfortable, the Kings
Yeah.
holding a lead, there's a big difference between a 1 goal lead and a 2 goal lead.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so the difference between it being a 2-1 game and the Kings would not have necessarily felt so comfortable and so able to sit back in the latter half of the second and the third period had it been a 1 goal lead, than they did in the actual game where there was a 2 goal lead for the entirety of the second and then 3 at some point in the third before the empty netter.
Yeah.
So this question of leads, holding leads, I think, and the Kings allowing themselves to get too comfortable. Also,
Would they have allowed it if they
I,
had that?
they
Yeah.
have allowed it. I don't know. The Habs allowed themselves to get in this position where the Kings felt comfortable and felt like they could rest on their laurels almost.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you. Something interesting that happened in the third as well, and we're gonna get into it a little bit more in terms of the overall overarching, overarching, um, kind of concept in general of Slafkovsky versus Demidov on that top line. I would like to just point out, by the way, I was looking at the numbers and I genuinely can't believe it. Uh, you're right, unless not reading this right, and I could completely not be reading it right. Um, to me, I think Yuri Slafkovsky is the second least played forward, right? Or third. It's Joe Veleno, Arber Kapanen, and then Yuri Slafkovsky, which
You looking at
feels
this on Natural Stat Trick?
no, I'm looking at it on ESPN. I'm gonna check Natural Stat Trick because that genuinely seems like an insane breakdown to me. But we'll talk a little bit more just in general about Slav. But we saw that change with Demidov being on that first line. To me, it kind of felt like Marty just being like, I don't know. Marty, to me, it just felt like Marty just being like, all right, let's just try it, right? I don't. What did you see when you, not out of that line, but what did you see at the concept of Marty making that decision um to put Demidov up there?
I think it was sort of a what the hell sure moment, but
Yeah,
also I know that you think that Slav didn't do too poorly this game. Honestly, I thought he looked pretty bad.
you think
Um,
so?
I think so. I don't think he looked good.
Interesting.
I don't know. I think the entire team looked bad, but he did stand out to me that there were a couple plays where I was like, buddy,
Mm-hmm.
what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think even on games where Slav hasn't felt excellent to me, he's always felt very dependable in the power forward role that he has become on the first line.
Yeah.
And so I didn't like the feeling of looking at him and thinking, "Ooh, he's not doing too hot," because
Mm-hmm.
that's not an impression I often get from him. Even when he's not shining or he's not standing out, I've never thought that he was playing poorly. So
To me, I think it was
I
more sorry. Good night, Claire. Sorry, just seen.
Good night,
Good.
Claire.
To me, it was. I think I. I think we're in completely different ends of this because what I saw out of Slav was, I think he was trying. And I felt like that was lacking a little bit. I think it was trying things, not in terms of lacking effort across the team. I can't speak to that. I'm not in their heads. I'm not going to pretend to know. Um, but in terms of trying things, and therefore he was making a lot of mistakes. That was
Mm.
my view on it. Um, but that's interesting. That's interesting. Huh. I'm trying to figure out what question I can ask to get the information that I want. Um,
What information do you want?
I don't know.
And I will just answer.
I want
Okay,
more of
well,
your thoughts.
I mean,
Tell
I
me more.
definitely agree.
Tell me
Okay,
more.
I agree with you in that he was trying things. I'm not
It just
denying that
wasn't
he was
going
trying
well.
things.
It just wasn't
I just
going
don't think
well.
I don't think his attempts were successful. I think it was sort of that, what's that adage about like throwing spaghetti at a wall and seeing if it
See what
sticks?
sticks. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that he was very good at throwing his spaghetti. It's just none of it was sticking. That's my opinion of him tonight. Um, he was flinging his spaghetti. It was going like
That's
he was doing
just,
an excellent job of trying.
that feels like a
I just think that
euphemism
in
for
his
something, and I
trying,
don't like it. Whatever that's a euphemism for.
sorry,
No, I hear you.
Habs
I hear
destroyed me
you.
so. Yeah, he's Habs destroyed me so thoroughly. I'm just coming up with off the wall metaphors to console myself.
No, you're correct.
This
You're
is
correct.
an excellent impression I'm making right now. Um, but no, I definitely don't deny that he was trying. I think that like lack of effort was not something I would ever really prescribe to Slav in terms of his play or quality
Hmm.
of play style.
Hmm.
I just don't think he had a good game. I think that his attempts were unsuccessful.
Okay, what did you think about the concept of putting Demidov on that line instead then? Did you think it was worth like a sure, why the hell not moment?
I think it was worth a why the hell not.
Hmm.
Based on what I saw, I can't tell if it was like just the actual line chemistry or if it was just everyone was doing bad. I didn't love it.
Hmm.
Honestly, I would put Slav back. I think that Slav, even with his mishaps today, seems like he fills the role of what that first line needs in terms
Hmm.
of um especially in terms of zone entries. What I don't know, I was thinking too much about them. I My mind wandered while I was taking notes. Was that they need him for they need him for the forecheck. I think that that's he does a great job at that.
Hmm.
That's like, and as I I would put him back regardless of his performance. I think that maybe, the experiment was tried out. It needed to be tried out based on what happened in the game, but I
Hmm.
wasn't too satisfied with Demidov there, honestly.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think I just don't see Demidov filling that role. I just don't think the
I
role
mean,
is there. I think is
that's what I'm
That's
saying.
exactly what I think we're both agreeing on here is that I don't think it's uh Whoops, outrage just reminded me. Okay, you know what? We've been talking about this game a little too long, I think. Is there anything else you want to touch on this game?
No,
I
not
think,
really. This is honestly the second period discussion we've moved into, so we can
yeah,
run ads and then
I think we've
get
been,
right back to
I
this.
fear we've been talking about this game a little too long. So how about we move on to our second period? Before we do, as Outrage reminded me, thank you so much. We are going to talk about, we're gonna send us over to our lovely sponsors, Inchubichu, and I will be right back.
Famous chateau at 4000 Rue Saint Ambroise lies one of Montreal's coolest secrets, a glamorous Gothic jewelry store owned and run by women. Inchu Bijou isn't just a business. They've built a community that supports bold creativity and expression. When I was first introduced to founder Astrida Pisigomian's shop, I was floored by the detail, vision, and scale of what she's built from her own mind. I don't think anyone would call me goth, but I know an innovator when I see one. Along with building their own business, Inchu Bijou also hosts markets for vendors in their space called Marché Maleficarum, boosting their whole community. If you don't live in Montreal, explore inchubijou.com, where you'll find over 800 designs that range from affordable to bespoke. Check out Inchu Bijou right now, a Game Over partner from the beginning.
Hello, everybody. We definitely weren't talking. We were talking a little bit,
Definitely
I
weren't
think.
whispering little
Yeah,
secrets to each other.
yes, we were definitely not whispering little secrets to each other. I would like to thank Outrage, by the way. Thank you so much. I don't think we realized because we were getting into second and third period topics. So let's officially formally move over to the second period where why don't we keep this discussion going about Slafkovsky and Demidov? I know we wanted to talk about it on the second half of the second period, but let's just keep going here. Um I do not I feel like something Marty struggles with is in-game adjustments, and I fear he got
Yeah.
a little bit too cute today. And I Why don't you were just telling me about the time on ice. Do you wanna just share with the
Oh, yeah,
classroom?
for sure. So, at 5-on-5, Yuri Slafkovsky had the least amount of ice time with 10 minutes and 4 seconds. This is according to Natural Stat Trick, so let's all trust the computer. And if I'm wrong, I blame them. And then followed by Kapanen and Veleno, and then in all situations, um, in all situations, which means including like power play time, he was only at 12 minutes and 12 seconds. Slavkovsky, the third least amount
Yep.
after Veleno and Kapanen. So those three were like rounding out the bottom in terms of time on ice in both 5-on-5 and all situations, which we were just pulling up the stats during the ad read so that we have them already there. Feels like
Yeah,
a bit of an overcorrection almost.
I would agree with that. I Listen, I don't wanna be, "Oh, you have to give, like" I don't wanna be the person who says that, "Oh, you need to give your older guys some more leash than you would someone else." I don't think it's about the age, I think it's about track record. I think we've seen this first line together enough. We've seen concept of what Slav can do, that it just seems like an insane overcorrection to go that hard. I don't know if it was just I don't know what happened there. I don't think Marty is committed to a first line that has Demidov on it. I don't believe that. Somebody in the comments said something about how Marty was saying that he was just experimenting. So I don't think that's something that he's committed to in any sort of way. I just I guess my question is, what the hell, Marty? Like, what are we doing here? Listen, I think that Slav wasn't that bad. Um, we disagree on that. But either way, I think we both agree that even if he played bad or he didn't, the first line is centered. The secret sauce, in my opinion, to the first line is when Slafkovsky is on his game. When he isn't, I don't think that line can do what we've seen it do. I just thought it was a little bit much. I think it was a bit much. I thought it was I know what Marty was trying there, but I don't really get it because it wasn't even like Slav took a lot of penalties. It just seemed like he was trying too much, which
Okay. Do you want me to give my 2 cents on why this all
yes,
happened? My little
yes,
Okay, I think
absolutely.
it's a series of things. One, he got a lot of pushback about Demidov's ice time and was like openly discussing in the media how he wanted to try and experiment with ice time and see who was playing on what line. So I think the intention was already there.
Hmm.
Two, Slav had a bad game and therefore it was kind of the leeway. And at some point, um, like Slav wasn't doing too hot. And then three, I think the fact is that this Suzuki Slafkovsky, oh no, the Caulfield Suzuki Demidov line was being played at offensive zone faceoffs.
Hmm.
So I think it was also, with Uri Slafkovsky's role as a power forward, as that forechecker that I was describing earlier, when he's doing that secret sauce of like getting deep in the offensive zone, there's less of a need for that. Like mainly that shift that I saw from, what was it, Dobson Hudson, and then our first line with Demidov on there that I was describing was being played in the offensive zone directly off the faceoff. So it
Hmm.
was like the intention was to win the puck and already have control of the puck and not have someone necessarily deep in the offensive zone cycling the puck back up to the players like around the faceoff dots on the sides. Like there
Hmm.
wasn't that same need for what Slafkovsky was doing. So I think that it was also just, hey, we're down a bunch of goals. Let's put all of our offensive firepower, win the faceoff, and then just volley pucks at the net until we can score a goal situation. And with combined with the fact that Slav was doing poorly and Demidov, they wanted to try giving Demidov more ice time. This was the time to put all of that into motion with what we saw on the ice. That's my take.
I think that's a very good take, actually. I never thought of that because that is something actually Marty has been very openly talking about is wanting to correct um, decisions that he's made that maybe he looks back at and wasn't happy with. Um, because Marty is also a human being, I think, is the reminder here that maybe he felt some pressure there, whatever it was. Um, yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. But in general, talking about this game specifically, sure. In general, I do not want to break up that first line on any level,
No,
way, form, dream plane, astral projection. I do not want to break that line up. I think it would be a terrible idea. People are hungry for it for some reason. Although, to be honest, I'll be honest, I'll be fair to the fans. I've seen a lot of people less want to meet up on that first line and more want him on the dock line. I think people have calmed down about taking Slav off that line, but it just, I even would keep the Demidov line as is right now with Kapan and Newhook. What are your thoughts on that? Like those two lines as individual lines?
I don't want to
Not
break up
today.
the first line.
Not today.
No,
I
no,
mean,
no,
in
no. In
general.
general, like
Yeah.
in general, I love the first line. I mean, that's why I was kind of surprised by the whole line blender. But at the end of the day, why not try it when you're down 4-1, um, or down 3-1, and you're rapidly losing all hope. I think that in a general situation, I keep the first line together 99% of the time.
Yeah.
Some may even say 100. I'm not going to go that far, but a solid 90, 98, 99% of the time, I'm keeping that first line together. I'm a big fan of the first line and the way that they play all together.
I
Um,
think there's enough of body of work there that it makes sense to me
oh,
to keep them.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we are both in agreement, us and our little circle of Habs fans on Twitter, at least our circle, are big proponents of the first
I
line as
honestly
is.
think a lot of people are. I'll be fair to fans. I think a lot of people are.
Yeah, yeah. As for the third line, I honestly would be down to see Davidoff more so on the second line with Doc. I think
Hmm. Hmm.
um that's the kind of experimentation that should be done in the beginning of the season. I
Hmm.
think it's the kind of experimentation that people are asking for that Marty himself acknowledged that he should try and do.
Yeah.
I don't think breaking up the first line is the solution. When they say give more ice time, it's kind of pancakes waffles. Does not mean giving Demidov more ice time does not mean breaking up the first line. In my opinion, I'd be happy to see him on the Doc line, especially with Doc playing better now. I would be really excited to have a strong second line with Demidov on there.
I think it'd be great. I just worry about, do you not worry about disrupting Doc right now?
Yes and no. Um, I I don't honestly see it as a disruption. I see it as an asset to his game.
Mhm.
Um, so I'm a big Demidov like supporter. I think that he would do great on the second line. I don't see it as disrupting
Yeah.
Doc in any means. I think that it would be honestly giving him, a little bit of an offensive boost and helping see that as Doc is returning to form, what exactly he can do with some wingers who are stunting it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think somebody mentioned earlier in the chat that they weren't really impressed with Bolduc, I think. Yeah,
Mhm.
I think that line with Kirby Doc, you know what? I agree with that. I think I just like Newhook and Demidov together, uh, because I feel like they just seem to have a chemistry now that seems to be working. But in terms of skill, if we're talking strictly about that, I would be down. Listen, that's not one that I'm completely against. I just have a complete hands off the first line, and you can do whatever else you want, Marty. Um, I don't think that's a conversation to be had. I'm seeing some conversation about as Moose says, you can't when the line is producing, which is Demyanov, Newhook, and Kapanen line, it's hard to break them up. Agree with that also. I think when they're producing, it's hard to justify that. I think it's a little easier to justify that if they're producing but they're like not winning or they're not winning the way they'd like to. So that's a little bit more wiggle room there. I am seeing some, so I do want to address that I'm for Montreal MUSC, which I'm seeing some really interesting comments, so love that. But I don't like I'm seeing some maybe an idea that putting Demidov up on the first line is a message to Slav. I don't necessarily think so. I think that is unfortunately Slav is I don't want to say the victim, but like just a catching some strays there, I guess the best way I can put it. I don't think it's meant to teach Slav anything. I think it's more meant to try. Do you agree with that?
I'd be more inclined. I think maybe this is a naively optimistic outlook on it. I don't think that Marty is necessarily the type of coach who is sending messages in game. I
Mm-hmm.
think much rather sort of do the confrontation of, hey, or not necessarily as a warning, but if it came with a more sort of negative implication for Slav, it'd be the kind of thing that he would discuss in practice or we would see in practice with what they work on, what the sort of lines are. I don't think the if that were a warning, I don't think it would be the only warning. I don't think it would be a looming
Agree.
threat sort of thing. I think it would be more of an open conversation of, hey, I put Demidov on because you didn't do great, but it's not set in stone. Here's how you earn your way back, as opposed to it being a threat. I don't know. If it is a warning, which I don't think it is, I don't think it's a very serious one, or that's like the only form of message that Marty would be sending.
Yeah, I think we've seen Marty bench some players at some point. I think we've seen even Marty last season. We saw him bench Slav once or twice. Um, but this didn't feel like a benching. It again, to take it back
Yeah.
and talk in the same circle we were talking in. I think it was literally just Marty trying, throwing spaghetti at the wall. Maybe this time Marty's the one who's throwing spaghetti at the wall instead of Slav.
Everyone was throwing spaghetti at the wall this game. They were playing
That's
the
true.
Kings.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. I hate playing the Kings. I hate playing them so much. They are such butt. I hate them so much.
Okay, yeah. I really regret wearing the whole black and white sweater because I truly do despise the Kings. I was, yeah,
On
have a
my screen,
little
it looks a little
live.
blue. On my screen, it looks a little
Oh,
blue.
yay! Yippee! I'm glad. It's very decidedly black and white. But I was having a crash out about the Kings. Any sort of admiration for Quinton Byfield's game is now gone in the face of pure unadulterated hatred. Um, yeah, I hope he gets traded to the Sharks. Kidding.
I'd take him. I'd take him on my team. I wouldn't be mad about him on my team. I just
No, me
don't
neither.
want him in that organization. Man, also just really quickly, I know we're hating on the Kings as they deserve, but I just want to say I think I'm very just personally or like more on like a human level story happy with what Alex Turcotte seems to be building because he had a really rough start with all the injuries and the head stuff. So I'm just glad. I think he looked good enough today, and I'm just from a just hate to see guys' careers be completely derailed by head trauma. I'm glad to see him be able to put it together a little bit today. I did see him a little, and one of the times I saw him was when he cross-checked Davidov and did not get called for it, and I remember seeing that, and I was not a big fan of that part of his game.
Yeah. I support you recovering from head injuries. I do not support you cross-checking my players.
I also do not support you
Um,
driving him neck first, therefore giving him possible head injuries, right? Like it's just
yeah.
not
Yep.
cool. It's not a cycle. It doesn't need to be a cycle, Alex. Okay, I'm ready to move on from this conversation. Is there anything else that you wanted to that maybe we didn't talk about in terms of just this last Demidov conversation?
Slav Demidov conversation is good. If we wanted to talk about lines and just what to do with lines, I think it's worth circling back to what Montreal MUFC was saying about Bolduc and what's in store for him. I think that would be a productive conversation, but also that's an entirely different topic.
Yeah, let's
So
get
we
into
can
that.
segue
If we
in
have
that.
time, we'll get into that in the third. Or we could talk about that in our
Alrighty.
OT. Because I want to
Sounds
get
good.
into the conversation about the goalies. I think we've talked about Semi Monteba's game. I am less concerned than I was maybe 3 Semi Montebo games ago. But that's not a very unfortunately, with the way it's been going, um, I just think that it's just frustrating. He just confuses me. I think Monty confuses me because he's so good, and then he lets in the most brain farty goals. You know, I think a lot of his numbers are bad luck because there's been a lot of deflections that unfortunately go into the net past Monty. I can picture in my head right now at least three goals that went off a teammate's like stick or something, right? So I think some of the numbers are a little skewed by that. But also the fact of the matter is that it's been a little hard to watch Monty as a Monty supporter, right? I don't want to talk too much about his struggles because I think we've beat it over the head, but I do want to give you an opportunity to talk about it because you haven't gotten to beat it over the head yet. Beat it over the head? Beat it. You know what I mean.
Yeah.
English is
I
a
mean,
weird language.
I don't know honestly what else I can contribute to this conversation that hasn't already been said. Because I am an ardent defender of his. I do feel like right now he's just being outplayed
Mhm.
by Dobish. And that's just sort of the fact is like I can love and want the best for him and also acknowledge that his numbers haven't been great.
Yeah.
I think this is something that you mentioned that I saw maybe on Twitter. I don't know if you've brought it up in your previous streams, the thing about like low danger versus high danger shots
Hmm.
that Monty's faced. I think that's honestly an interesting avenue to explore the why behind his lack of form right now.
Mhm.
I think that could be something worth discussing because we've seen the guy have some like highlight reel saves, and he
Absolutely.
can really clutch up. He can clutch up against dangerous teams. Like
100%.
we saw that against, I would say most notably in the playoffs against the Capitals. Like he was doing the mostest, and he can be really clutch for better or for worse. I think. Okay, this is a conspiracy theory.
Okay.
This is entirely a side tangent, but I suspect that a faction of people who hold resentment for Montembeault for not earning for the Connor Bedard sweepstakes
Yes, yes.
expect
Let's
now
talk.
that he will be a lights out like Vezina caliber goalie because they're like, well, if we couldn't get Bedard because of your out like your superior goaltending to your mean or your average capability, then why are you not acting like this insane goalie now when we
Mhm.
actually want you to be saving goals? But that's just a fan theory. That's more so a fan
That's
theory.
very
I think
interesting. That's
the
actually very interesting.
I think it's the weight of expectation of like, well, you were very good in a time where we didn't need you to be good, so why can't you be good now when we actually want you to be good?
Yeah.
Situation. That's a more personal hypothesis. I think the thing about the Habs getting better at neutralizing high danger thought shots and how Monty operates as a goalie, which is like trying to make those clutch saves and not necessarily being the best at stopping some of the flukier goals, means that now that
Mhm.
he's mostly like facing fluky shots from the point, things that aren't necessarily the ones that activate his super locked in, super
Yeah.
intense stare.
Yeah.
He almost doesn't know what to do with himself. I think that was something that I saw on your Twitter that I thought would be a more plausible explanation.
I agree with that. I think that there are simply just some goalies who do better when they face a lot of shots.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, I think Monty might be one of them. Not to say that I think as this team gets better, he's absolutely like not at all the correct goalie or whatever. I'm not ready to give up on Sammy Montembeault on any level. I don't want it to seem that way. But I do think he's struggling with this team that seems to now be able to play defense, question mark. Um
Yeah.
yeah, I don't that's a great question. What do you do about that? What do you do
What do you do?
when you're
Yeah.
getting better and it seems like your goalie struggles a little bit when you're better.
Yeah. I honestly have no answers to that.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
genuinely have no answers. Like, what do you do in that situation?
yeah.
Um, and he's been shouldering a workload that exceeds the expectations of what we were going to put on him. He was supposed to be, be part of a three-way goalie triad almost,
Hmm.
and then at some point he was being insanely overworked. What do you do now as we start to shift towards more of a tandem thing? Is that something that Monty needs? Is that like does he perform better when he's trusted 100% as the starting goaltender and almost given an insane workload because like that's just what he does?
Hmm.
Or I have no clue what makes this man tick,
Well,
genuinely.
I have a hard time guessing with goalies. One thing that I think you could try, listen, Monty is simply not getting that kind of the Carey Price treatment of you're gonna play almost every single game and your backup might get like 10. I think at this point, Jakub Dobeš has proved himself enough that that is not how it will go. So if that's something that would make that is the problem, I fear it is something that he's just going to have to get over. I don't,
Oh, absolutely.
you
No,
know?
I'm not saying we
No,
go
no,
back
no.
to, I'm not,
Oh no, I
please do not think that I'm saying we
do not
give
put in the newspaper.
Samuel Montembeau, of all people, the
No,
Carey
no, no,
Price
no, no,
treatment.
no,
I
no,
far
no.
from it.
100%. I don't think you're saying that at all. I'm just saying that like I'm considering that as a possibility and then what you can do about it. What you can do about it is simply get over it, which I don't even necessarily know if like
Yeah.
it's an attitude thing. I don't want to imply that that's an attitude thing. That might just be a mental or whatever thing, right? One thing that I think you could possibly try is teams that you feel like shoot a lot maybe you put Monty in for that game. I'm sure they have those numbers, like of course, those are very basic numbers. Do you just make more strategic decisions with who you're starting? Because I want to, I feel like it's funny because Dobesh we've also seen play very well against very good teams that can do a lot, right? So, uh, how do you?
How do you, as Trinka 2.0 says in chat, how do you solve a problem like Monty? So true. And I also really like musicals. And sorry, just to read the chat, someone came to say hello to me specifically, which is so sweet. Thank you,
Hi, MFM.
MFM. Thank you so much. Hello to you too. But yes, how to solve a problem like Monty. I think it would be interesting to see how they manage the workload and if they go on an approach of like not necessarily strength of matchup, but also play style as well. I think that right now that the workload is sort of give Monty a few games, give Dobie a few games, and then also consider strength of matchup. Like last week, it was Monty against the Flyers, and then it was Dobie against the Devils, and clearly, they're giving Dobesh in that week the stronger of the two matchups. But I think also considering play style might have to be a new factor that they take
Yeah.
into account, as opposed to just overall, is this a good team? Is this a bad team?
Yeah, yeah. I think that could be something, but kind of, focusing on Dobesh, it was very clear that the Devils game seemed to go very hard on him. Like it seemed like he struggled with that, which hurts to see, right? It sucks to see that from any player, let alone a goalie, that they're just it's the curse and the gift of a game living or dying by your hand, right?
Yeah.
I fear that is just something that it just really sucked to see Dobesh struggle like that. And it also was a little shocking because to me Dobesh is a very confident goalie. He always seemed to brush things off, always seemed to just move on. So does this change? Does not I don't want to say the emotional response, but like does the for some reason the response that really seemed to shake him or shook him or have shook, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Does it kind of change how you think about Dobesh kind of in the immediate future?
Honestly,
I fear he was just
it
having a bad day. I
kind
think
of.
he might have just been
Uh,
having.
I think yes and no. In the
Mhm.
one hand, like I would be like, I think that everyone has bad days. I think he probably just had a bad day and that was that. And it's rough to have that bad day also be, in front of the cameras during a media availability at the same time.
Mhm.
It is a little bit rattling to publicly have your goalie who usually seems very confident, who's, chirping and starting shit and, playing kind of crazy in that he is not the most, I wouldn't say he's the most poised goaltender, but he's always like he's moving around, but he's making the saves. And to see that guy suddenly seem very defeated is a bit rattling. I think ultimately I still trust him a lot. I don't think it changes my opinion and my trust in him. I just do think that um it is a little bit shocking to see
I
as
think it's
well. And you have to wonder as a team, like, what exactly caused this? Why did this game and this bad day in particular elicit such a strong emotional reaction?
yeah. I
At the
think
end of
this
the
is
day, it
one of
doesn't
the
change my
ones.
opinion of him, but
Yeah.
it is like something you need to look out for and something to wonder why, so that you know how to prevent it in the future, just in case, he has another bad day from hell or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this is one of the ones uh for the health team, the mental health kind of side of this, where and I think ultimately what matters isn't how I see Dobesh because of this or as a response
Yeah.
to this. I think ultimately what matters is how do his teammates see him, right? In terms of
Hmm.
do they still see him as that like who knows? Something's happening behind the scenes. Maybe his teammates know that, and that's why they know that he had such an emotional response. Now they know that's not happening, so they still see him as that goalie that, like, I have the meme on hand that's like the Patrick Star dunking on like that meme that's like Patrick Star dunking
Yeah.
in a basketball. And for me, my go-to for that one is yet another player rage baited by Jakub Dovesh. So, like, if that's the general player he is, I personally would like to see him back in net sooner rather than later, is I think my immediate thought on this.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is like I think that it's important to sort of keep in mind that he can break down like this and that he's not infallible and not solely the SpongeBob dunking meme, but it doesn't change my opinion of whether or not I trust him in net. I
100%.
think that I would also like to see him in net as soon as possible, kind of
Yeah, I think even
considering everything that's happened.
less just like for the play, which of course for the play is really important, but also for his sake. I think it would be just really nice for him to get another game. And even if it's a loss, have the opportunity to respond to it. Um, just on a personal level. I think with goalies, man, it's so, so hard. And I feel for them so much. And this is the conversation that happens with Montebo too, where I just feel for him because it's such a visible position and it is so clear when you're struggling. And I think this is one of those moments where I'm like, man, I'm really glad my captain is Nick Suzuki because I trust him to manage this situation.
Not everyone can be Suzuki, but they
But
should try.
but everyone should try.
But everyone try. I'm attributing that quote to my lovely editor in chief, Ariel Lalonde of Offside News Co. Shout out to her because I like to
Great,
reference that tweet
great tweet.
constantly. Everyone should try to be Nick Suzuki.
Yeah, yeah. I think that my thought is I would like to see Dobesh in Dallas versus the Stars. Um, and just watch him do what he does. I don't think this one moment changes how I feel about him as a goalie. We saw Slav almost in tears in a post game last year, right? Like, if anything, I'm like, oh, in a little way,
Oh
I'm like,
yeah,
"Aw," right? Like, not in I'm just like, "Oh, seems like you guys are, like, able to emote, which is really nice for you, and I'm really happy that in this position you feel safe to emote." And I think ultimately what it comes down to is what does the locker room feel about Dobish? And it seems like they're willing to pick him right back up, right? Like, I think
oh
that's the most
absolutely,
important thing. I don't think this changed necessarily from the outside and from all reports doesn't change how the team sees him. And I think ultimately doesn't really matter how I feel about what happened as long as the team feels a certain sort of way about it. Would you like to see him in
yeah.
Dallas or like versus Dallas?
I'd like to see him. No, I would like to see him against Dallas for sure. I
Yeah,
think honestly, I would have liked to see him in Dallas, regardless of how this game went against the
100%.
Kings. If I'm
100.
being honest.
Yeah, for sure. I wanted it because it just I think when you're trying to have this kind of rotation where it's maybe not even 50-50, but maybe 40-60, you know, um, I think it'd be important. And I think we've seen him yeah, I think something someone pointed out is I think he's a strong competitor. Move said, I think he's a strong competitor. You have to really want it to make it to this level. Yeah, I think sometimes you just gotta I think that's what you saw is and I saw someone on Blue Sky, Adam, who's a mutual, said something about how what this shows me is that he thinks he can make every single save, therefore he expects himself to make every single save. And something about that is a great, mindset to be in. Of course, there's balance to be found, but I think ultimately this doesn't make me think that oh, he can't handle this. It makes me think that he expects a lot out of himself, which isn't
Yeah,
at the end of the day necessarily a bad thing, you know?
yeah.
It didn't seem
Like
like he had the kind of
Moose.
breakdown that was like calling guys out or anything like that. It
Oh,
just
for
seemed
sure.
very reflective more than anything.
Yeah, Moose. in agreement with us. Glad to know we've got some people backing us up in terms of who starts. And then Trinka saying his journey is super interesting and seems very determined, not the kind of person who would let one game get the better of him. I agree. I think that is kind of in alignment with what you think. I think that it's it's good to have those sort of expectations on themselves. The reason that I mentioned that I personally was a little bit concerned is that you just don't want to let your overly high expectations of feeling like you can make every save get the best of you, and then like trying to hold yourself to an impossible standard. But at the end of the day, if that impossible standard is what you strive for and what makes you shot like 29 out of 30 saves, and that's what gets you ticking, you're the goalie, you're the one in net. I am not the one in net, and
Yeah.
I am also not in that locker room. So
Yeah, whatever works.
whatever works.
I think ultimately the conclusion we both come to is that we care about him, so therefore we want him to be okay and, just as a person. But we also both agree that I don't think it's changed our confidence in him at all, right? Like, I think
Yeah.
that's ultimately where we're at. So we want to move on to our third period. We'll make that one shorter. We're both yappers, in case you guys can't tell. But we'll make that one a little shorter. But before we move on to our third period and talk about the Struble versus Xhekaj thing that's happening right now, I will send us over to our lovely sponsors at Le Saint Motel and find out more.
While you're browsing Inchu Bijou's goth shop, head next door and discover Montreal's most unique selfie studio. Whether you're looking to take some banger pics of your Halloween costume or cosplay, or you want to make some memories with friends, Le Saint Motel has you covered. Experience their bombastic decors that are always changing, hop in the ball pit, and take advantage of their extensive and flexible on-site lighting. Head to lesaintmotel.com to book your time in the studio, book private time where you and your friends will be the only ones allowed in, or book the space for an event. The dedicated, caring staff will make sure that you have a good time. I do have one warning for you before you book. If you have kids, they won't want to leave. Whether you're at Le Saint Motel or Inchu Bijou, tell them Game Over sent you.
Hello, everybody. We're back. So
We are back in
we
business.
are indeed back. So I'm gonna just really quickly. I know neither of us really have a ton to say about this, but I think it's important to talk about because of the position that we're in this team. Caden Gooley seems to be on the mend. We saw him skating in full equipment. So he's definitely almost, we are where we are. And so the conversation that happens when King Gooley is back is, who do you take out, Arber Xhekaj or Jayden Struble? 2 games ago, my answer would have been not the most confident, but like 80% confident, 75% confident Jayden Struble. He's had 2 rough games in a row. I feel like Arber has played a lot better defensively. And it's rough. It's hard because Jayden Struble plays next to Lane Hudson, and so a lot more visible. But yeah, have you noticed anything particularly in between the two of them?
I mean, not really.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of just feel like it's hard to compare them. I think I look at both of I look at Struble especially, and I think, wow, you are not Caden Gooley. Which is so harsh, but unfortunately true, is that like I think that he does also have there's the misfortune of looking at him and seeing, you know, that he does play next in what should be Caden Gooley's spot, and so there's a bit more of that direct comparison.
Yeah.
But either way, I really don't know. I don't know
Yeah.
who to take out. I think that it's kind of a hard evaluation to make considering, well, in the context of this game, especially when the defensive pairings were also chopped up and there was time spent, a lot of time spent on like 5-on-3 and power play, penalty kill, blah, 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 of who the best option would be. I honestly could not give you an opinion right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
I feel like it wasn't a game that I was looking at, and that was not my biggest issue.
Mhm.
I felt Caden Gooley's absence, but I wasn't particularly looking at the play of people who were replacing him. So I would have to like actually watch with that specific lens of like evaluating the defenseman
Mhm.
to be able to give you an honest and like appropriate answer, really.
No, I totally understand. I appreciate you just being like, I don't know. But to me, I think what has happened is that unfortunately that last goal looks a lot worse for Lane Hudson when I think it should look a lot worse for Jayden Struble. Just I think he got in the way of Lane Hudson a little bit, which is you cannot do when you excuse me. Sorry guys, I need to keep my inhaler next to me. But yeah, I think you're right. To me, it's more I look at it and I'm like, damn, Caden Gooley would have been really useful in a game like this. I think I think whenever he's back, it's gonna be, feels like a very no duh moment, but like I think it'll be very good for this team to have Caden Gooley back. Thoughts? That feels like such like a
Thoughts
no-brainer.
are thoughts are fork found in kitchen. Thoughts are I agree wholeheartedly. I think um Moose says that it'll probably be back to a rotation with whoever is playing better. That's a totally fair assessment. I think the question is who goes out first is
Uh-huh.
who gets scratched first is my question. Which one are they going, who is the more pressing, we want you to stay
Mhm.
in the short term, because yeah, sure, they'll take turns over the course of the season once Gooley is back, and that'll be part of the rotation and how they manage the play.
Mhm.
But I think our question is more so who's going to be the one scratched as soon as Gooley gets back,
Yeah.
which is a much shorter term and harder to pinpoint answer.
100%. I think it's like I think the reason I think this is when you really see why both of these guys are six third pairing defensemen, right? Like I think this is why you see why they both occupy that role is because of the inconsistency, right? Excuse me. I think Jayden Struble, when he plays at his best, um, he's a luxury to have as a 7D, as a 6D. However, that's a big disclaimer of when he plays at his best. I think Arber Xhekaj, when he's playing at his most controlled, at his best, is also a very good third pairing defenseman. Um, I know people will disagree and come after me for this, but I will say I think Jayden Struble's defensive ceiling, like strictly defensive ceiling, is higher than Arber Xhekaj's as of right now. Um, but it's really just about consistency. And listen, Caden Gooley comes back next game. I think it's probably Arbor that's still in. Because there's also the factor of I think this team, this organization sees Arbor as a longer term what's the word I'm looking for? A longer term fixture of this organization. So I think that's something that Arbor has on his side is that he just simply Jane Struble just has the misfortune of not being Arbor Jack guy in terms of what he
Yeah,
brings otherwise.
I don't want to give only credit to, I don't, because I think it does a disservice to Jackie's game of like, oh, he throws punches and he is what would one might consider a modern day enforcer, as best as there can be enforcers in the modern NHL.
Mhm.
But I think that it is kind of a thing that he does have going for him outside of his game that Struble doesn't, and so, but that is more of a long-term thing. That's more of what they see as the player as a whole rather than their performance in the past few games, like we've been making the distinction
Mhm.
just
Mhm.
now.
Yeah, I think that's just a longer term thing. We're gonna move on to our third period. I know we wanted to keep it quick and we've kept it quick. But before we do, I did want to quickly give a shout out to something um that Conrad from Game Over wanted us Game Over Calgary wanted to share. So I'm just gonna there's supposed to be an ad that he read, but I couldn't get the volume to work, so I'm just gonna tell everybody instead. So do you love hockey? I'm sure that you do if you're easy. If you're here, then I can consider you, I count you as part of an easy check mark. Do you consider yourself part of the Two Spirit LGBTQ IA plus community or an ally? I mean, that's also hopefully an easy yes here. If you check both of these boxes or either, I do have a treat for you. On November 12th on 10:30 p.m. MST, there will be a live stream game between Calgary Inclusive Hockey Associations, two teams, the Terra and Luna, on the Game Over main channel. So we'll be broadcasting that there, and it will have full play-by-play by Conrad from Game Over Calgary. If you can't catch it live, there will be a video for you to watch and support later at your convenience. We'd really appreciate any sort of support you have there because we want to make hockey a more inclusive space. So we'd really appreciate that. Appreciate any support. We will have a link. And hopefully by the next game, I will have the video working itself. But as of right now, I'll have all this information in the description box. Okay, so moving on to our overtime period. If you guys have any questions in the chat, be sure to drop them there. While we wait for questions to come in, I do want to give you a quick chance to talk about the line combinations. I think we talked about that near the end of the second period. So, line combinations, question mark?
Line combinations, question mark. I mean, I would argue that that question has been more or less answered in that I am pro the first line staying intact at pretty much all costs, and that I am um a big proponent of letting Demidov have more ice time and sort of seeing what he can do with as many players,
Mm-hmm.
and seeing where he works best. And I'm pro experimentation on that front. Of course, don't preemptively quit on a good thing that is the line that we have right now. But
Yeah.
even considering playing that line just at 5-on-5 with more ice time, like the line as a whole,
Mm-hmm.
maybe, and giving Demidov more of a chance to like be on that line and have that line produce really well because it has been producing well.
Mm-hmm.
And then when that magic runs out, getting creative. I don't know. I think
How do you feel about that
my
fourth line? I
my
think is my big question mark here.
oh
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel about that also. Ah, poor Joe Veleno, I think is frankly uh playing a little bit outside where he should be. Um And I think he also has the disadvantage of being compared to the Emil Heineman, Jake Evans, and Yoel Armia line that we saw last year because we had a really good thing going there. Um, and I think I think it might be time for a call up. How do you feel about that?
honestly, I would be pro a call up. I think, you know, I'm glad Veleno has had his chance to, wear the Habs sweater, play for his hometown team, have his, time in the sun. But I think a call up would be good. I think a call up would be beneficial. It's hard right now. Nothing can recreate the magic of that fourth line that we had
Man, that was so good.
pre-accident Emil Heineman, as Shrinka says. But
Yeah.
and then Montreal MEFC says would have been comfortable keeping Sammy Blais. I really like Sammy Blais. Like I'm in Vancouver. I saw him play for the Abbey Canucks. I'm a big fan. I kind of see why we put him on waivers at the same time.
Hmm.
Saying Veleno should have. I think the Veleno experience arguably has a greater ceiling
Mm-hmm.
than Sammy Blais could have had. I mean, he spent most of his time in Abbotsford. He was not. He was a good player for the Abbey Canucks,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess he's serviceable on what has been a very poor Toronto team. But like,
Man, what a
we're
good
playing better
time.
than Toronto right now.
What a good
We're
time.
playing better than Toronto right now, and he's bottom six on that Toronto team that has like depth issues up the wazoo.
Yeah.
I'm fine with having let him go and doing the job. I think that he has more of a potential upside than Blais did. I just don't think we're seeing that upside right now, and I think it's
Mm-hmm.
time to give a shot to someone from Laval.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I don't really know much about Sammy Blais, so I can't have an opinion on that, but I I think I don't think it's fair to say that like we that it should have ended in preseason. I disagree with that. Or like that Montreal MFU's wow, I should really stop saying names that I'm having trouble saying. But no, I'm gonna stick by it. Montreal MFUC, MUFC. Montreal MUFC. Oh my God, I'm struggling so bad. Yeah. Saying that like they think the Sammy Blais, that Veleno just shouldn't have. I don't think that there was any sort of such a huge distinction that we could confidently say one or the other should have been sent. Like I don't, and you know better. Like you know better in terms of this player itself or himself. I can just tell you what I saw, and what I saw was I understand why they made the decision that they did. And I also wouldn't have been mad if they made the other decision. You know?
Yeah, I'm not gonna say that like it's completely wrong to have that train of thought. Far from it. I think that there could have been a decision in either which way. I just think that Joe Veleno at his worst was playing poorly on an NHL team, and Sammy Blais at his best is playing poorly on an NHL team. So I
Yeah.
think there's just I don't know. I see a higher upside in Veleno, and I say this as someone who loves Sammy Blais. Like I had posters with his
Mhm.
face on them that I brought to the Abbey Canucks games. Like I love the guy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that it's easier to say that in hindsight than it
Yeah.
would have been in preseason.
Fair enough.
Um, but speaking of call ups, who would you call up right now?
Ah, I don't.
Well, you're the one who suggested the idea of a call up to fix this fourth line. I'm putting you on the spot now. Let's hear it.
Um, Listen, I can only go off of what the folks who actually watch the Wall Rocket say. I'm seeing a lot of calls for Jared Davidson to come up. What I've seen of his game seems to be very, very fitting to what the fourth line would like to do. From my understanding of that game, that would be a game that would create a very, very nasty fourth line. But like nasty in not in the way that's like, oh, they'll fuck you up kind of nasty, but more of a they're gonna be a pain to play against kind of nasty, which frankly I wouldn't be mad at. I think that's something that we could use in our fourth line.
Yeah.
Like that between or next to Evans and Anderson, I think it could be really good. I know people have talked about perhaps Florian Xhekaj as well. Um, I don't know if necessarily the best use of that player is having him play like less minutes on the fourth line. Not that I'm saying that I think when he turns out, whatever player he turns out to be, will be like a second line, time on ice kind of player. But I think even if you're priming a guy to be a fourth liner, it's still okay to let him cook a little bit. Kind of, do you have any thoughts on that?
Um, well, I was going to say that I agree with the consensus agreement, which is Davidson. I think that if we want Nasty to play against Xhekaj is an option, sure, but I agree in that letting him cook. I don't see any point. He has only just recently, or like in the past season, and during this preseason, become the kind of player that Habs management saw in him. I think a lot
Mhm.
of people were sort of seeing him as like, oh, this is a
It's
late round pick.
a
We can
nepo.
afford a nepo draft pick. Not to say a la Luke Hughes, but a nepo draft pick nonetheless.
They'll get you.
Sorry, I
They'll
have to
get
get
you
my
for
Latin
that.
thing.
They'll get you for that.
I have to. This is a safe space. We are on Game Over Montreal. I don't
Yeah.
think the Insane Devils fans are finding me here. But he was largely regarded as a nepo pick, and then people were like, "Oh wait, he can surpass that," and
Yeah.
we've seen it in the past seasons. And I just think giving him a little bit more time to pad his resume almost in Laval and let him like cook and continue to grow into this player that we've just begun to see the massive upside to is
Mhm.
far more beneficial than calling him up too soon, like you said.
I agree with that. I think there's also something to be said about a player who's it's hard. It's hard to play in the NHL, and it's hard to play in the NHL in a role where you are sitting on the bench for a lot of time, right? And
Yeah.
you need to be mentally ready to go. And I think it's a little bit I mean, like he's doing well in Laval right now. Frankly, as Trinka says, save him to call him up in the playoffs. I'm mostly joking, but also not. Save him closer to the playoffs, I would say, even if he's maintaining it. But I think you're right in that track record. Um, I'm honestly just going off of what uh the folks who actually watch the Laval Rocket are telling me, and if they're telling me that they think that he'd be better off, I'm gonna choose to believe them. I think is what it comes down to. Yeah, Moose says it's good to reward well-performing Rocket players. I don't know what Florian Xhekaj's Rocket season has looked like so far. But I do know I'm hearing Davidson's name more, and even outside of the call-up conversation, just more in terms of the Laval conversation. Do you follow the Rocket at all?
I don't follow them as much as I would like. I think that I'm definitely, I keep up, but it's more so in a keep up with like their stats and stuff without actually watching the game. So I'm not the most qualified. I think it's just when I talk about Florian Xhekaj and his development and just development in general, it's for me, it's more of like
A
a
slow burn.
philosophical thing.
Yeah,
Well, it's
fair
more
enough.
of a philosophical thing about like what is my approach to how to develop players, and rather than thinking specifically about Florian Xhekaj.
Hmm.
Um, like that's just more so my takes on when it's best to call up younger players when you expect to see that sort of maturity out of them where they're prepared, because you don't want them to feel like they're being called up to play the fourth line and then the fourth line is just their audition for why they should be kept up.
Yeah.
And I think there's also a level of maturity that comes with saying, "Hey, I'm being called up, but I know this is a temporary assignment, and I know that, um, or like it's not
That
necessarily, your
yeah,
audition."
me being sent down isn't a reflection on how I've been playing kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and sort of, I think when you are someone who's in the pipeline more so to be a permanent fixture in the NHL, and the AHL is not your, I hate to say endpoint, but like your main place of like where you will leave the AHL at some point, then you sort of see any NHL opportunity as like my chance to finally crack it and find a chance to finally be up on this NHL roster more permanently, when that's not necessarily the case. And I think that that's the value of a tweener, like an in betweener, and that's the value of maybe calling up someone um who's not necessarily a young guy,
Hmm.
but who has a track record. Like
Hmm.
um I'm getting this correctly, because for all I know, Davidson could be way younger than I think he is.
Well, he's
Um,
23 and Jacki is 21. To me, in my mind, Davidson is a lot older than that because I feel like I've been hearing his name a lot more. But I am looking at the
yeah,
stats, and again, I am stat watching. This could very much be a hashtag watch the games situation. But I'm seeing here that Davidson has 11 points in 12 games played, and Jack Guy seems to have a little bit of a rougher start in 3 points in 12 games played. And you don't want to, first of all, I don't think you can justify. I think that looks really bad. I think it looks really bad to the guys in Laval if you call up somebody who isn't necessarily performing to the top of their potential in that way. Um, you're not responsible for managing that locker room. The guys down there are, and the coach down there are, but you are responsible for managing the culture of the organization. That am I making any sense here?
yeah. No, I definitely agree with you on that. I'm also pulling up the stats. I think maybe though, and we can keep going on this, but also as two stat watchers who are just kind of confirming our takes based on hearsay
Yeah.
and stat lines, that I don't think we're also the most qualified to be doing this.
No, let's just talk about things we don't know about.
I kind of put you on the spot there when I was like, give me your answer on who you'd call up, but I was doing so with the hope that you would be able to give a better answer than I can, and I do feel that we are a little bit the blind leading the blind.
I fear
No
we are leading the
offense.
blind. I fear we are leading the blind. I'm just echoing what I've heard from smarter people, or people who know more about the Rocket than me. We are
Yeah.
going to end this stream off because we have A, been going for a long time, and B, my lungs are giving up on me right now. But before we do, I am seeing Zach from Game Over Toronto, which, oh buddy, how about the Leafs, eh? Seeing him asked, how scared should I be about playing the Kings on Thursday? I think that the Kings may perhaps eat the Leafs alive. I think the Leafs in general are being eaten alive a little bit, and I think the Kings are enough of a bog you down kind of team that they're simply gonna. I think they have what it takes to maybe ruin your night, Zach, is what I'm gonna say.
Yes, I would agree with that. Life is a pit and there's no escape. Also agree with that
Also
sentiment,
true.
Zach. Look at how we're feeling after this
Also
game.
true. Yeah.
Um, yeah, my thing is that right now the Leafs are bad and they're losing, but they're also somehow still managing to score goals. Let's take a look at that Boston game where they still managed to score 3 goals despite it being an atrocious game for them.
hmm
So I think that it will not look like a 5-1 score. I honestly don't think it's going to look as bad as ours. I still think it will be utterly demoralizing.
I think what could happen here is the score is lower, but the feel of the game is the same. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I'm going for, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I think you're gonna probably feel worse about it because the Leafs are supposed to be better than we're supposed to be. And that's everything I remind myself. I have literally on my Instagram story right now posted a screenshot of the Leaf stats of the last two periods. I'm just
Yeah, see,
reading.
I'm seeing 5-3 was deceiving, it was horrible. Is that's kind of the vibe I'm getting. It'll probably be another 5-3 game, but it feels worse. Whereas ours was 5-1 and it felt like 5-1.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, with that, I think, is there anything that you want the people to know? Mine that I want to say is I love Jake Evans. I thought he was very good today, and I love him so much. And I'm really appreciating the chemistry that's being built between Jake Evans and Josh Anderson. And my beautiful penalty kill is so beautiful, and I love her so much. I didn't even touch on that, but the penalty kill did pretty well today.
Yes, I was just gonna say Jake Evans. I am holding my mini mic with my hand, so I can't do it with both
I'm
hands. I was
just
trying to
gonna.
flip it to my sleeve. Is that the right side?
No,
I
it's
think we're both doing the wrong side.
I think we're. Wait,
Wait,
wait, you stay up. You
you
go.
got it. Okay, okay. Oh no, wrong way. This is mirrored. I can't do this. Jake Evans. That's my thoughts.
Jake
Okay.
Evans, Jake Evans. I'll say it for you.
Jake Evans. Thank you so much. Good night. Good night to Jake Evans especially.
Good
And to
night to
Josh
Jake Evans.
Anderson for that beauty of a goal.
Man, what a goal. Um, would you like to tell the people where they can find you?
Oh, yes. For more of my thoughts and opinions, please find me Offside News Co. So offsidenewsco.com. I write there, will be writing there also more so when the season starts about PWHL Vancouver, Vancouver Golden Eyes. They have a name now. But I talk about other things too. So catch me there. I'm also at Millie_Rivers on Twitter. And I'm down to chat pretty much all the time, talk hockey, talk less PWHL, Vancouver Golden Eyes there as well on my Twitter where I say whatever I want. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. There was a excuse me. I think you're the one who wrote about the torch, I believe. There was one
Yes, that
article
was
that you wrote
me.
that genuinely touched my heart so much. If you guys are on Twitter or Blue Sky, you can check out. I will actually either post a link to it or retweet it because that was such a wonderful article that I read, and Millie is a very good writer, with very
Oh,
smart opinions. So
thank you.
yeah, I think it's just some great stuff, and I think it's always lovely to see people who clearly love the Habs talk about the Habs. And although I'm not a Vancouver PWHL Vancouver fan already, I'm a hater. Um,
Fair enough.
I'm
The
I,
hate's the
I'm
main us.
I will read every single article you write because of you. So
Ah, thank you. Look, full disclosure, my main team is still the Montreal Victoire. It's just that I live in Vancouver, so it's very easy for me to go see Vancouver games and
no,
talk
I
about it from
totally
yeah.
understand. Totally understand.
Oh, also slight promo. Just gonna add on one wee little more. I have a Substack. It's Sliced Cranberries. I also, if you want to hear more personal thoughts on the Habs and other more writing from me that may or may not be about the Habs, but also takes a more personal essay lens. I'm on there as well
Hell yeah.
on my Substack. Yippee!
Hell yeah. So yeah, I'm literally just found the article and thinking about it is making me tear up. So I am
Aw.
going to genuinely one of the best things I've read. I loved it so much. I'm sorry, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop.
Sorry, I'm so touched. I'm so touched. I think this before this turns into like a no, you're the best. No, you're the best. I think let's save our lungs.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I'm gonna send us out over to our outro, but love you guys so much for sticking around. This was a very disorganized, but I think we had some great conversations. Millie knows a lot about hockey and was able to share some stuff and some point of views, including the Monty thing, possibly a the Bedard Monty season conversation. I don't know, but some great stuff. I am going to send us over to our outro and I'm going to stop talking. Love you guys. You can always find me on my socials and love you. Bye. Bye. Love you so much. Bye.
thank you for having me. Thank you. Bye.